Welcome to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. I'm Amra, writer, teacher and storyteller. Pull up a chair and let's dive into stories about writing, life and lessons learned, sharing wisdom from my armchair to yours. You can find the episode show notes, your free episode handouts and my how-to guides at amrapayalich.com/podcast. And now it's time to dive in. Welcome to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. Today's guest is Melbourne-based artist Lukas Kasper. He began his art in 2009 and he's inspired by street art, graffiti and skateboarding culture. He's best known for large-scale murals and public art projects. He blends bold line work, adaptive colour palettes and his love of native flora and fauna, which look amazing. His work often explores themes of mental health, environmental awareness and our relationship with animals. He's painted walls and exhibited his work across Australia, North America and Southeast Asia, and includes art residencies and brand collaborations and community-focused workshops, and have shaped his transition in his practice over time. Welcome, Lukas.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lukas is also an artist in residence here at the Hunt Club, so we've gotten to know each other through that, and so I'm so grateful that he has agreed to come on the podcast, and he's also been helping me with the technical aspects.
Trying to, as much as I know.
It has been a big learning curve for me. So your beginnings are sort of rooted in graffiti and street art, and then you sort of shifted into gallery exhibitions and commissioned mural projects. Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, well, I first started painting, just through graffiti, just being a little kid, figuring myself out and skateboarding, and, I found like a little community within that graffiti type of realm, and a sense of like adulation in a weird way, because, you'd see your stuff out in public and you're like, I did that, and you're running around at night like a little ninja painting, and it's understandable why, I can definitely understand why people become addicted to graffiti at like a younger age. It tends to be like a topic of discussion with a lot of people, where they say to mural artists when you're painting, like, I love this stuff, but I hate that tagging, which I can understand too, like it makes sense, but in those moments I definitely flash back to being a kid and realizing how it can like completely captivate you. So yeah, I was, that's how I started. Became addicted to painting graffiti, and then I got in a bit of trouble here and there in Queensland, with graffiti.
Yeah, because it is art, but then there's also that element of public spaces or even private spaces, like where it's being done. Yeah,
it's understandable why there's laws and stuff behind all of it. Otherwise, this place would be running rampant with graffiti everywhere. But yeah, at that point, like, I was also, at a younger age, I used to, because I grew up in Queensland, I used to skate around the city when I was like really young, and I would drop into every cafe and bar and any place that would possibly hang artwork. And I just ask, like, do you have walls that I can facilitate a show in?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Such initiative.
So yeah, it was just grassroots, like, especially in Queensland at that time, like, many years ago now, there wasn't many gallery spaces that was like accessible to like a young kid that only knew graffiti and knew nothing about the art world. So that's how I got my foot in the door, is just showing through those spaces, because while I'm at home I was still painting on canvases. Some were graffiti looking, some had characters that all different types of work. I mostly painted them on things I'd find at op shops, so like recycled frames and canvases, and put on shows. I started curating spaces in the city, like at bars. There's this one bar in Queensland called Brew. It's like this really rad space, and I used to do rotating shows once a month there, and just sort of figured out what the gallery world sort of looked like to me. So I started showing, started painting more professionally, and it just sort of naturally progressed.
Yeah, I remember talking to you when you got a commission for something, and you were like, people are surprised that you can do that convention. Like you are an artist, you know, you do art, like graffiti art is one part of it, but there's all this other, you know, just in terms of the mediums that you use and the different ways that you experiment. And sometimes that's a bit of a shame where, you know, people get a little bit pigeonholed, and you've managed to, I think, get out of that and do all these different things.
Yeah, I tend to be like a jack of all trades with that type of stuff. I mean, literally, I'm out in the balcony right now in the studio, cutting up things to create A-frames for like live painting events and all that. So I'm always doing something different, and I think my style is similar in that way, where I can vary from one thing to the next. And like as a public artist, you tend to have to fit the aesthetic of like where you're painting. Like I painted in a park for Brimbank City Council not too long ago, and I looked around and there was beautiful swans and ducks and all this. So it was, first thing that came to mind was doing, you know, some beautiful realism mixed with my style, because it's not every setting that they would want some sort of graffiti-ish, you know, street art styling. Like even myself, growing up, I mostly just painted monsters, these little characters. And even for me, like I don't want a big one painted in my bedroom, you know, along the wall, look at it every day. I think it would be quite intimidating. But that out in, you know, Melbourne laneway is like perfect. Like it fits, it's sort of raw, it's gritty. So over time, like being a public artist, having to answer briefs and looking at spaces and approaching them correctly has made me like vary my style a bit and be able to paint a lot of different things.
Well, just I want to pick that up because, you know, that's one of the things when you are that artist and you're wanting to get those gigs and stuff. It is about being able to interpret and being able to work with people. But then there's that aspect of being an artist and your vision and stuff. How do you navigate those two things?
There's many challenges along the way. It's hard. That's like riding that thin line is like the most challenging thing. Like I could really appreciate artists that like they have one style, that's what they paint, and they paint that everywhere. People recognize them as that. I think that's awesome. If you can, you know, push one visual aesthetic and have it appreciated to the point where you can just do that consistently, that's amazing. But yeah, for me, I guess the first thing that came to mind was like monsters and sort of these like creepy looking things. So I really had to vary out, and it puts me in moments where I have to answer a brief that it can be really challenging, but you just push through it. Like I've had jobs that, you know, they look like they're it's like a good payday, you know, it's going to treat me well, it's a good spot and all this, but it's like the first 2 or 3 days I'm looking at it, I'm like, I have nothing for this. But I always manage to get over the other side, and what's odd too is those are the jobs that are usually the ones I look at the end and I go, I'm like super proud of it. Yeah.
So it's that inspiration versus perspiration.
Yeah.
Like, you know, do you do things just when you're inspired, but you have to actually, like if you're going to be, you know, a working artist, a working writer, you have to be doing it even when you're not feeling it in the moment. You have to find it regardless.
Yeah, and that's why I'm here. Like I'm in the studio pretty much every day. I'm not painting outside, I'm painting or like making something in here. Like I always just sort of force myself. Sometimes I come in here and sit in my seat and like look at the wall for like 2 hours and have nothing, but at least I'm here, and it keeps me motivated.
It does, doesn't it? Like where you're kind of like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
Something starts percolating. Just because we don't have the TV. Like if we're at home and we've got the TV, we're like, oh, let's turn on the TV. But we're here, and it doesn't matter how tired I am, I still get some work done.
Yeah. And there's like, you know, I got 2 kittens at home, and they're very distracting. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. There's so much more.
Yeah.
So I think we've touched on some of these things. You described that your monster theme line work was a therapeutic outlet. And now you've sort of shifted towards mental health, animals and environmental themes. So can you sort of talk through that evolution?
Yeah, well, I think the monster thing all started up more like subconsciously. There was not really an intention in my mind as to the reason why I was painting them, but I sort of figured out it was like a natural thing. It was almost like a mandala. You know, you draw the center and you like shape out and shape out and shape out, and it's quite a therapeutic process. And it's how I used to approach the monsters. You know, I'd do 2 eyes, and I just worked my way out, fill them in, line them up, and it was just this, art's always put me in the place where the negative thoughts just vanish. And that's, I realized, like, as I got, older, that's what I was using it for. But, over time, you become a bit more mature, and you sort of realize that maybe you want to make some type of statement or put a specific visual into that. So that mesh that, made me start implementing in different things, like using those same methods, but maybe painting an animal or putting an animal into it, or different types of visuals, like implementing in. So I guess, it just started as monsters, and now that'll be in pretty much everything I ever paint. You'll see that form of that practice. But I guess it holds more intent rather than just being a thing. I don't really know why I'm doing it, but I'm just doing it.
And that's the fascinating thing about being an artist. There's always this subconscious element to it, and then people are asking you questions, and you're like, all right, I'll try and, package it. Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of that work, that cognitive work that happens there. Yeah,
it can be a weird thing, like, especially being in, like, the public space, people ask you questions like, what is it?
Yes.
And like, you don't have an answer.
Yeah, you're like, oh. Yeah. Like, sometimes when people read my work and they're like, oh, this and that, and I'm like, sure, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you kind of, there's so much of us on that subconscious level that kind of seeps through.
Yeah.
So you've had involvement in school murals and community art creative workshops. So how's that community-based art evolved, and how have you gotten into that?
Well, I was your typical, like, disengaged kid in school. So I can definitely... I can relate to a lot of young people that are going through similar things. So I just really naturally found myself in situations where a school wanted to interact and do a workshop or do a mural or do whatever it is. And I tend to pitch the idea of, like, working with the kids. So it's actually strange. Like, the first place I ever taught, I was probably 17, I think. And it was for a place called... what's it called? It was for a place called NOFS, and it was NOFFS, and they ran a program called the Street University. I walked into this building one day because out the front there was an A-frame that says, like, graffiti artists wanted. I was like, I was like, you don't see that every day.
They were looking for you.
Yeah, so I walked in and started painting. Like, they gave me a bunch of paint. I painted the wall, and they said, come back next week and bring your ABN. And I was like, yeah, cool. I had no idea what an ABN was. So I went home, signed up for a sole trader ABN. That's how I got my first paid jobs. And I came back, and they were like, yeah, you have a job. You're going to come back here once a week, and you're going to run, like, art workshops, graffiti art workshops with the young people. So I became a facilitator, and the age demo that I was working with people that were 10 years older than me. So I was just like this kid, didn't know how to teach, didn't know what to do, but they were a really cool place where they realized that the people that should be teaching this stuff are the people that are, like, part of that world. So I might have been younger, but that was my entire life. So I was in the right spot, wasn't mature enough to teach. A lot of things stumped me. It was crazy.
Yeah, teaching is a...
Yeah, so, like, at a very young age, I was just thrown into it with that. And then I think every sort of teaching, workshop type of situation since has been easier than what that was. So I got thrown in the deep end, and ever since, I would just work with young people and schools and stuff all the time, and I just love it.
Yeah, and even now your YouTube channel is very much focused on that teaching side of it, where it's about showing techniques and showing all these different things. So in a sense, that's now become a part of your, what would we call it, your toolbox.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why I did that is because I know a lot of kids don't have, say, the money to book, like, a workshop or... and it's a rare thing. If an artist comes to your school and, you are that young person that wants to learn and all that, it can be a rare thing. So for those kids that, they don't have the money or they don't have the opportunity, or maybe they're even in a place around the world where street art or graffiti isn't like an accepted thing, like here in Melbourne, they can at least go onto YouTube and watch like heaps and heaps of videos on how to do it. So
yeah, and there is like, we sort of make out sometimes like there has to be a way of learning and the gatekeeping part of some industries, like my industry also in terms of writing. But at the end of the day, like there is an element of you have a gift and you have a talent and it's something that you enjoy doing, and there's certain things that can be taught within that scope. But then there's certain things where it's just like you like it, you do it, you enjoy it, and it's just creating those opportunities sometimes. Yeah, and
accessing information around spray paint and all these things, it's like a really tricky thing. You can't really go to school to be, you can go to school to be an artist and play with mediums, but with the stuff that I use, even if I spoke to art students, they probably wouldn't know what the caps are, the cans and all that stuff. So it's, I don't know, I just saw a void where like a lot of people were in the dark, and I decided to change that.
Yeah, and you're doing really well with your YouTube channel, so it's really building in an audience and showing that niche is something that you found that does need to be filled. There is a need for it, which is just so heartening. Hopefully, have you had any feedback from any people that have sort of been doing
heaps. Yeah, it's been interesting seeing a lot of people go from, because if people are communicating, it's mostly on Instagram, or they'll start following me there and they send me like a big message, and I've had heaps. It's really it's really paying off. A lot of people are saying how much it's helped them and all this, and the tutorial stuff has definitely been the stuff that's like blown up my channel. So.
Well, as an aspiring YouTube, so I look at you and I'm like, oh, but you're really doing the work with it in terms of the ideas and generating and recording every week and developing that content and doing the themes in terms of building these videos so that they're beautifully cohesive and sort of doing that support. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes that goes
insane.
into it.
It takes away from my painting time. I spend more time editing the video than I do painting whatever artwork that I'm doing. So tutorials a bit easier because you talk for a little while and that can be a minute, but a minute worth of like a painting edit takes 5 hours to edit.
Yes, because you're actually doing it and then you're having to like shorten it.
Here and then slow mo and then this and so it's a lot of work.
Is it leading though to more opportunities in terms of people seeing you who might not have seen you before and getting more work in that way too?
I think so. I don't know how much is translating to like projects coming through. It's hard to say, even with like brand collaborations, if they see you have a YouTube channel and there's 10,000 people that are watching you and you have a bit of a following, like that stuff can really help you in those ways, in small ways. You might not even hear from them like, this is the reason why we were like attracted to you as an artist. So in that way it can help. I don't know how many like councils with budgets and stuff are seeing those videos, but all in all, I don't care too much about like about that side of things. Like I really find a strong level of connection to like just documenting, having video that you can look back on and like in many years from now, in like 40 years, if YouTube's still a thing and it's not Monday.
Yes.
So I'm sort of thinking in that way. I can't wait to look back when I'm 60 years old at videos when I was like a 28-year-old kid.
That.
Yeah, so it's like I'm collecting. Like my memory's horrible too, so it's like I'm collecting these little pieces, and so I just get a kick out of just documenting. Like I really love it.
I love that. That's a really great way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because I have these moments also where it's like, why am I doing things and what am I doing? But my philosophy is just create things and put them out there and see it. But that's an even better philosophy where it's like you're documenting for yourself and then anything else, gravy.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful gravy. Oh, that's awesome. Well, you talked about your that you have been working with brands. So you worked with like Amazon Australia and Doritos. So what was that like with like that transition into commercial work and artistic principles and melding those two?
Like every collaboration is different depending on who you're speaking to. I think the hardest thing I found is when you work with big brands, you don't work with them. You work with the people that are in between them. So it's this weird chain effect thing where a lot of creative ideas can get watered down very quickly. Because if you're speaking to one team and then they speak to a team and then they speak and it keeps going up the ladder, by the time it comes back down the ladder, you're like this, it's interesting how when you first get approached, you feel like special, like I'm leading this thing. But then as time goes on, you realize you're just like a cog in the wheel, which but not every partnership feels that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some places it's more creatively driven, some are not. I think if a brand comes to me, they probably know what to expect. But like I said, with so many people along the way, it can often be misunderstood a little bit. So it's a real challenge to like create a product that is, or like to be a part of a project that remains your style and your vision and everything along the way.
Yeah, again, going back to that art versus commerce, and when you're making art for people and they're paying you for it. Because I'm of the view as a writer, I've reached this point now where if people want to, buy a piece of writing, I don't care what edits they suggest. I'm like, accept. I'm not precious. But I also haven't been in a position where I've had to compromise, where I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about that. I'm like, no, that's fine. Yeah. But it is always that line that you walk where, you are working for someone. And then it's just trying to see that big vision in terms of that end and that documenting, as you're talking about, in terms of this is what you did, this is what you're a part of. Yeah, I remember I went to the 7-Eleven and I bought the Doritos with you. And I don't eat Doritos, but I did eat them just because I wanted to see it. Yeah. Because I'm like, this is so cool. Yeah. I just want to be a part of this where I know someone who did this, which is really fabulous. Now, you've done residencies across the world, and I think you just came back from a residency.
Yeah, I just came back from Mongolia and China.
Yeah, so
that's crazy.
Tell me about that.
I went over to Mongolia to paint in a thing called Playtime Festival, and that is it's like a music festival, but they set up walls around the location. It's in a place called Ulaanbaatar, which is a main city in Mongolia, and painted in the festival. That was 4 days, and then I went on like a little outback trip to check out Mongolia to get inspiration for future paintings. But I decided I wanted to make more of a trip out of it, so I booked like a train from Mongolia to like Inner Mongolia, just on the Chinese border, and then from there to Beijing. I just wanted to spend a month trying to find walls, find opportunities, and just to get my stuff up internationally and meet artists and get inspiration. So it was 1 month of just chaos and living out of a backpack and getting electric bikes to get here and there and paint and trying to get permission, and so it was just 1 month of it, just crazy adventure. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's super important to do that stuff. It's incredible how much you get out of it, even subconsciously going forward. I feel like since I come back, my battery just feels like recharged with inspiration and ideas. There's way more things I want to do. And I do that all the time. I did that in Bali. I did that in Canada. I just fly over places and try to figure it out.
Love it. Yeah. I just love it. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, you've got to take those risks.
Yeah.
You've got to just put yourself out there, and it's about living life and contributing. You're giving me ideas, because planting a lot of ideas now. So looking back, what was the biggest pivot moment of your career? Could you pinpoint one transition, do you think?
Pivot. So changing my approach to things.
Where something like a big change where you transitioned out of one thing to another, where you're like, oh, that was I guess a little bit, you've already talked about the teaching graffiti art at 17 years old and how that really kind of changed and gave you this skill set.
Yeah.
Is there anything else like that?
I think, there was one major project that I did that I learned a lot from, and I sort of put my artwork on a larger scale, I think, which was in Wodonga, Albury-Wodonga, right on the New South Wales border between Victoria and New South Wales. It's a town called Wodonga, and I went there for a 6-month artist residency, I guess you'd call it, where I worked for the council full time. I got a budget for paint, which was insane, and got my own little rental van and went around, and my mission was just to paint walls for 6 months. So during that period, I think, like I already took my work very seriously and all that, but I think it's almost like when I look back, I think of my practice before Wodonga and after Wodonga, almost like it was like that leveling up point. And it really pushed me to like a next level. I think I got taken a little bit more seriously. I wasn't just a guy painting in laneways and occasionally getting commissions. Like I was doing these large, grand artworks that are now like held in like their art collection, and it was like a big thing. So that was a huge opportunity. I think that pivoted me. It was in the perfect time where I was ready to move out of big, cold warehouse, like communal space, to like my own spot like this. And yeah, I think when I think about a pivoting moment, I probably think back to that. It's almost like my direction changed completely after that project.
And were you applying for that, like where it was, because that's something that we've talked about, where you're always kind of looking for opportunities, applying for grants and applying for residencies, and that's a big part of this life that we live. So can you talk about that, and like how have you learned to do that? What are the things you've learned through that?
Yeah, so that was application, and it was over COVID. So yeah, so there's always different little funding streams, activations, and things like that. So Wodonga was one council, as well as there was a few others that ran this program where they just opened up a 6-month residency for public artists to paint in spaces. So when I got to Wodonga, there was also like a new videographer, and there was like an accountant, and just standard jobs within the council. But then like my role was very odd, and they popped that up. But yeah, I won it through an expression of interest process, and I continue to do those all the time as well. Like I said, I'm in here every day, and if one day I don't have ideas or a commission, or it's slow for a little bit, I'll plug back in and have a look. I think a really awesome website for artists of all different backgrounds would be Arts Hub. It's got a lot of different opportunities, grants, a lot. So I always sort of plug back into there and a few different streams, see what's going on, and maybe put together an expression of interest.
And there's no one, the more that you do it, the more it becomes routine in a certain way, and that you have all these assets and all of this information that you can package up for these different things.
Yeah, like it forces you to do things like update your CV.
Yes.
Yeah,
stuff we never do unless we've got this thing.
No way. I'm not just going to it's like the worst. I hate doing that so much. So sometimes when you're applying for something and it's important, you're like, okay, the last thing that's written on my CV can't say like 2024. It has to at least say
mine
this year.
Does. I need to update mine.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It is a workload, and also sometimes deadlines. When there's things that I want to do and I know that they're coming up, like I start keeping an eye, I put the deadlines in my calendar where it's like, okay, this is the thing. So it becomes like a work thing. And a friend of mine, she's like, you've got to be in it. If you don't ask, it's never going to happen. And this is the thing. If you don't put yourself in there and you don't try, you never know what's going to happen. And look at you, like you've built up those networks and all of those opportunities. And I mean, I just also wanted to highlight you're one of the few people that I know who is actually a full-time working artist. And this is you actually living off your art. So all of these different streams that you're doing are so important also from that perspective.
Yeah. That
hustle and always having something going on.
Yeah, it's a hustle. It's like the hardest thing I've ever done is being an artist. And before this, I've worked in every type of job from like roofing and concreting and construction, landscaping. I was a pizza delivery boy. I was a dog groomer. I've done it was grocery shop, all that stuff, like especially the hard-working, hard yards in Queensland, sweating in the heat and all that. You'd think that would be harder than being an artist, but it doesn't even touch it.
Yeah.
Like the mental strain, always having to have ideas, always having to build and be better, and your next painting be better, and the pressure you have on yourself and being completely reliant financially on what you produce is a lot of pressure. And so it's like this mental and physical, and the time it takes to do it, it's a lot.
Yeah, and that we don't talk enough about that, do we?
Yeah.
Like we all have this dream of, I want to be full-time, this is what I want to do full-time. But when I've only had very brief moments where I've done it. I've always had sort of the secure income, and during those brief moments when that's been everything, it is so much more like every no, just it feels a little bit harder.
Yeah.
It I don't know, you're just so much more raw on a daily basis because it is so much more important. Whereas now I work as a teacher, and then I've got the side hustle, and I'm like, all good, I'm fine, it's easy. And so I have that fantasy, but it's good to really be aware of what it means. Like it does come with a whole other aspect to it.
Yeah.
Everyone dreams about the time to just create, but you've got to make money from it.
Yeah.
to pay the bills.
And that's the thing too, it's like it isn't for everybody, like doing it as like a full-time practice.
No.
Yeah, I've met a lot of artists that have like done that and then been like, no, I need to just, even if they have a studio at home and they're just there every day and they just go a little bit crazy, they might just pick up a job that they do like 1 day a week, even if it just is for like the mental stability. It's a grind just pursuing like a creative endeavor full time. I think it can be, it can really play with you in a negative way if you're not smart with how you approach it.
Yeah, I'm starting to get to a point in my life where I'm like, I can face the hard truths, and I don't think I've got it in me. I don't think I want to, like that is a lot of strain.
Yeah.
And I dream about the time, but the other part of it, it's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's like, if I could have the time, if I won the lottery, that would work.
Yeah.
So I do play every week. Every week.
Nice.
So just last question, what advice would you give to someone who's sort of doing what you're doing, pivoting from street art into more professional or commercial, and what mindset or actions have made the difference for you and might help them?
I think motivation is going to be the biggest thing for anybody. It doesn't matter how talented you are. I've met so many painters, drawers, creatives that are incredible at what they do, like absolutely incredible, but maybe they don't have the motivation, or they don't want to build a website, or they don't want to do those things that are going to get them to that next level. So like motivation is going to be huge for you. I know a lot of artists, like they have a lot of self-deprecation, but with me saying this, like I was a terrible artist for a long time. And it was just that motivation of doing it every day. I got better, now I do it as a full-time living, and I have for quite a long time. So I think I really realized how motivation is huge within it. So if you love it, you want to do it every day, make sure you do that, even if you have a job, which I did for many, many years too. Another one I think is really big for pushing your practice far in a much quicker way is to maybe reach out to other artists that are doing what you want to do. You don't have to ask sort of a boring question like, how did you get to where you are? You can even just ask if you can, if you're in the painting world, you could ask if they're ever out in public and painting, can you come, or can you interact with people. And it's incredible how much momentum that can give you. That's how you find yourself in the right places. A lot of people, within the art standard saying is it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that is a lot of times very true.
Yeah, but it's also about building those genuine networks. I sometimes find people think that they can just sort of randomly pop in, but it's like you've actually got to build that genuine connection. And as you said, if they come and they're interacting with you while you're painting, while you're doing your practice, then they're showing interest. You've got that, connection. But sometimes it's like when people are just sort of contacting you and wanting things, and it's like, well, create that, those moments.
Yeah, like it has to be a genuine connection.
Yeah.
Like if I had a young kid that was 15 or whatever that wanted to come and paint and sent me a message and say Instagram, I'd probably message him back when I'm going to a laneway and we might paint. And like for me, it took me so long to learn the basics of how all this stuff even works. But within a 30-minute conversation with an established artist, I probably would have learned like 10 years of experience just to be there. So I think communication, and especially where we are today with social media, it's so easy to reach out to people, and it's not like back in the day where people that are established are these huge figures that you could never talk to, they'd never message back. Like artists that you might appreciate might message you back, they might not, who knows, but if they do, it could lead to anything.
Yeah, and and I do love that part of social media, how you create all these networks and connections with people. And sometimes I think, have I actually met them in real life? Because online we've kind of got that rapport. I'm like, I don't think I've actually met them.
Yeah.
But online there's all of those things happening. So it's really wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this interview, and thank you for being so generous and having so much to share.
Of course.
That's been wonderful.
No, thanks for having me. You caught me on a day where I'm just next door. So.
Yes. Well, this is the thing. We have the joy. We are right next door to each other. And yes, he's figured out how to help me with my camera, because that has been a very interesting journey. You should have seen me a few weeks ago, me and my husband, trying to figure out the microphone on this camera. We were like that. Dun, 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 dun. Monkeys not knowing what we're doing. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Lucas.
I appreciate it.
So join me next time at Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. Thank you for tuning in to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and follow for more insights, stories and inspiration. From my armchair to yours, remember, every story begins with a single word.